All right, so should we get started? So we got two good talks now on the testing aspects of it, putting it broad generally. There's a lot of details into it. So let's look at low code, no code from a developer's perspective, right? I'm not a developer, but there are more speakers who'll speak more about low code, no code, and how it's evolved, etc. But my focus is slightly different. Last year, 2022, we did a project and we decided to go low code, no code. And then let's see what, I'd like to share the experience with you. So, do we know what this screen is? Anybody who can say yes, what it is? Just trying to make it more interactive. Anybody's guess? Yes? Okay. It's MS-DOS prompt, right? We've all seen this, right? Especially if you interacted with computers prior to 95 and Windows 95 came. This is a very popular way to look. And now I'll show you this, right? The content may not be so important. What's important is, this is the My Explorer, which you see in Windows, right? So what's the difference? On left side, I'm writing the SQL, make directory, change directory. And on right side, what am I doing? I'm clicking something, expand, write new folder. Now think of it from a different perspective. Is this not low code, which we all use? Yes, no? Take it more to developers, right? This is the integrated development environment, right? Again, the content doesn't matter, so it's fuzzy. You could have this for Java, right? And when this came into picture, a lot of developers started doing things by clicking on the features available in the IDE. I would say this is another step in the low code, no code. Would you agree? That's the sense I'm trying to bring out. So LCNC is both the past and yes, it's the future. So it's not a modern phenomena. So you could say in 95, when Windows 95 was started, right? Maybe that was the start. There may be some differences. There could have been something earlier as well. And there's been a continuous movement toward LCNC. It's not something which is come just few years ago, right? Think of trends like enterprise resource planning, ERP, or even business process management, where I work as a business architect, right? We have been gradually moving towards low code. And I just put some definitions and some financial details of low code, no code, what will be the future be. But that's not what my presentation is about. There are more eminent speakers who will speak about low code, no code. What I wanted to share today is my experience. Early last year, we did a project, and I'll share my learnings from the same project. So a little bit of my background. So I've been working as a business analyst, a business architect in business process management, workflow rules engine. I joined the industry back in 2004. And as a part of my job, I have to do process modeling, right? So process modeling is saying, okay, this is box A and there's some condition, then there'll be box B, etc. I don't write the code for that. I drag and drop the things, right? So by essence, the work I have done for process modeling is, again, in that trajectory of LCNC. The last year, and I'll spend more time on the project now, we did a project, I'll say 70% we were able to achieve through LCNC, right? And in addition to this, I'm pursuing my PhD at IIM Raipur. My area is data privacy and privacy literacy. So towards the end, on the last slide, I'll have a plug into that with the permission of the organizers. So there's a small plug-in to my PhD work, but that's towards the end. So let's talk about the project experience, right? Because that's what I want to share here. So in terms of the team which we had a very small team. We had just one business architect, which is me, and we had another product owner. And I would say he was 40-50% with us. And we did this for the first 2 months. So in January, February of 2022, we were working on this. It was only in the third month, we actually got a developer. And we put a wave 1 of application into the production in April 2022. So that's almost 90 days we took. And subsequently, we had August and other releases. And now it's in full-time production support mode. So the application itself, it was an extension of an existing enterprise system, but we tried to do this extension as using low code, no code. Now, if you're just thinking, I'm not talking about the application itself, right? I'm not giving you the functional overlay of the application because that's not really important. That's not really great. What's more important is the learnings of the low code, no code project. So what are the challenges? Now, when you see these two challenges, what's new, right? Every project has this challenge: requirement instability, end users don't adopt. So why am I putting it here? I'm putting it here because these were the two challenges we were able to, in the face, hit those challenges with LCNC: requirement instability and end user adoption. And how we did this? One of the biggest benefits we got of using LCNC was knowledge management, right? We all know people change job, go to a different company, and knowledge management is a cost, right? Especially the technology where I work in Pegasystems PRPC, which is a BPM tool. The cost of the knowledge employees staying with you for a long time is always a difficult. They leave every 2 years, 3 years for all the right and wrong reasons. So the cost of knowledge management we were able to reduce because there was no special documentation or architecture specification or technical guidelines which we created. Everything was in the tool, right? And you just have to traverse through the functionality and you get to know what's the underlying technology. Of course, then the maintenance cost is less because you don't need to spend time weeks trying to understand what the issue is. Because it's been all done with low code, no code, there is low code in my case, I will say. There's no need to understand and dig into layers of code. It's easily identifiable. Now, the third bullet point, which relates to the challenge which I talked, right? So the way we were able to upfront challenge requirement instability was, it was never exposed to the developers as such. It was me as a business architect and a product owner who were facing the end users or the key stakeholders to understand how the process is changing. And yes, between this meeting today and the next meeting, they would come up with a different process model. But who's facing it? It's business analyst and product owner. And we can absorb the change in a better way without having frustrations in the developer community. So that's how we were able to address instability, requirement instability. Even end user adoption, right? Because this is a big concern. If you think of enterprise applications, we spend millions on enterprise applications. And after 6 months, we get to know that nobody's using it, right? So this was a concern. And how did we address it? Because as business analyst in PO, one of the things we have to do is think like customer, right? Of course, developers also need to think, but for us, it's one of the key criteria. Can I think like how the end users would think? So since we were thinking and then building the process in UI, the risk of less user adoption was significantly reduced. One of the other benefits was after we went live, the wave one, we were able to talk in a common language. Of course, we all speak in English like we're speaking now. But when we give reference, okay, this is the application, this is the screen, I want this XYZ to happen, it's less abstract because we can always take a screenshot and say, okay, this is where I want my field, this is what I want in the next step. So the language of discussion between the business and IT teams becomes one, which is the application. And maybe it's not the last bullet point, many may not like, but this is a fact, this is a learning. We didn't have any testers. It was just me and the product owner who was doing the tester. And in the 3rd month, we got a very good senior developer, and that's the team. We didn't have a testers. We did it ourselves. This slide, this is the last but one slide. I'm talking about some learnings, do's and don't for the entire team, the business analysts, and third is the technologists. The team itself, right? Now, if you think from a product's perspective, they'll say everything can be done low code, no code. Maybe for some product it is true, but from my experience, there are features which is claimed to be done with low code, no code, but you cannot, right? So upfront, you need to know, or maybe within few weeks, okay, these are features which let's not spend our time trying to do low code, no code. Yeah, the product vendor is saying, yes, our tool will do it. You need to get a hands and say, no, the tool cannot do it. Let's go back to pure development for certain features. And obviously you don't want it to be like 80% of the features cannot be done with low code, no code. Then the whole thing is lost. But you need to know, is it 10%, 15%, whatever. And as BA, I will raise my hand up and say, yeah, I did a lot of mistakes, but that's something we identified, that as BAs, as POs who are not technologists, what are the common mistakes you will do? And maybe it will be good next time we do a project, we know, okay, these are the mistakes BAs do, don't do it. The third point is very judgmental, and you really need to take a call where to stop and where to start. So, for example, I was trying to configure process flow, and it was all graphic, just drag, drop, click, 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 click. I did it. It's one click, one small checkbox I didn't do. And then I wake up at night sometimes because of that. One checkbox I didn't do, and the thing was not working. I spent hours like, where is the checkbox? Where is this training manual? Where is the checkbox? Which screen? You know, there were tabs and sub-tabs and sub-tabs. Where is the checkbox? No, right? I know that's the cause. So we decided, stop it. Sleep, and then tomorrow start from the beginning. Do it again. This is a luxury we have with low code, no code, because it was shorter, less painful for me to build that small process again, instead of trying to find that small checkbox which I forgot to tick. So this is a judgment, right? You need to take a call as a group, say, okay, we've tried all we can do. We asked all the experts, we can't fix this. Let's do it again. Because you can't do it for everything. For some, you have to break your head, but you can take a judgment call where to say, okay, let me start from scratch this particular feature. Now, specifically on my role, the business analyst, product owner role, what we do with low code, no code, and this is what the BAs should be able to do, right? This is not negotiable. We should be able to build detailed process flow, right? Not just high-level process flow, but detailed process flow with all alternate scenarios, exception part, etc. You should be able to do that as a BA in low code, no code. And then basic UI elements, right? Like the dashboard, reports. It's all something as business analyst I should be able to do. I don't need to go back to my developers, then the whole purpose is lost. And then UI, again, we learned this is a hard way, is you are trying for perfection, right? Beauty. No, that's not required. We need to target functionality. I'm not a user interface or user experience expert. That's not my skill set. I need to target on functionality when I'm working as a business analyst and trying to build the UI. And the last learning for us, for me as a BA, was this application is not going to sit in silo, right? It's going to be connected to 10 different applications. So I don't need to wait for the actual integration to be built. All I need to do is get sample data, test data, and use it as a stub to test my application or to run my application. So don't wait for the integration data to come. This is some of the key learnings for BAs and product owner. The third team member, I put it technologist. Integration is something which definitely the developers or the technology should do. You can't rely on business analysts. How much ever I may be excited, I know I don't have the skill set to do the integration part. Data manipulation is another thing. Again, we get excited. Okay, I built 70% of the UI and the flow. As a BA, I can do the data manipulation. No. Let the developers do it. And the last one is really something which my own developer team member said that, Srikant, you were pulling me a lot. Now I realize why. Because in the low code, no code tool, you always have an option to build it as a low code, no code, drag and drop. But you can toggle and go back to the developer way of doing the things also. Because behind the scene, it is generating code. So whenever we were stuck, the first temptation was for him, let me switch to the developer portal and do the development the way I have been doing for 10 years, right? But that's what we have to avoid. So that's something learning for the technologists in the team. Okay. I'll move to my last slide. This is a 2x2 grid. So my title was threats and opportunities, right? For the developers. What are the threats and what are the opportunities? Then I spent some time. It will be unfair for me to say the same threat is applicable for all the developers. So what I did is I made this 2x2 matrix. One is for the lower end of experience. maybe 3 years of technology experience. The other is the higher end of technology experience. So that's how I've built this 2x2 matrix. I couldn't Google this anywhere, so I hope you like this content. So what are the threat for the people with high technology experience, right? Let's look at the second point. There's no help or guidelines, right? So there's no reference or forum where you can say, okay, how do I solve this problem? Because most likely, if you're in a low-code, no-code project and you are the developer, you maybe select few people who are doing this. So there's no forum where you can try to search for the problem, right? Solution for the problem. The first one is, it's a threat. It's also an opportunity. So we used to reach out to the developers when we had spent days, nights trying to solve a problem. So he was our, what do you say, RBI is the lender of last resort. So he was the person, in the end, we would go to him, nahi ho raha, you can't do this. So you can take it as a threat, because you'll be under a lot of pressure and time, or you can take it as an opportunity. So you've seen this movie Rambo, Sylvester Stallone, right? Think of it, if you are a high experience developer working on a LCNC, you might have to work like a Rambo, where there's a problem which nobody else can solve and you are the one who's to solve it and everybody's watching. So I moved over to the opportunity aspect. There's another good opportunity for the people with a higher experience, which is they get involved more with the actual product vendors, not the technology development team, but the actual technology product team. And why that happens is because they are at the forefront of challenging this feature. You said can be done by low code, no code, but we can't do it. Come here and see in my application. There's obviously a lot of fight, right? They say, no, our tool works perfectly. So who's doing that job? It's the person with high experience. That's when you're interacting more with the product vendor, product company itself. And that's a good opportunity. Some of the technologists with higher experience, they want to move into actual product company. So that's an opportunity. So that covers the threat and opportunity for the high experience technologists. Moving to the low experience, I'm sorry, it's slight light and shade, me bad, but I'll read it out. So the threat for the people with low experience is basic components, right? The user interface, business rules, process flows, dashboard. This is out of the bucket for the low-end developer or low experience developers to do, because it is something expected to be done by the non-technologists, by business analysts. So that's threat. Those things, those works which were being assigned typically in projects to people with less experience goes to the bucket of business analysts. The other threat, or you can call it as a drawback, I'll read it out because it's light. I'm sorry for the people on the end. So the second drawback is limited opportunity on project to build core technology skills. What I mean by that is typically when you have less experience and you're joining a project team, you get an opportunity as a part of the project to learn core technology skills in addition to the deliverables you have to do. That's a benefit you have. You learn, that's how you make mistakes and learn for the low experienced people. However, with this low code, no code, that is something I think will not be possible, because even if you are working, you're more in the click, next configuration mode. So that doesn't help you build your core technology skills. So that's threat or a drawback for people with lesser experience. Last quadrant, this people with lesser technology experience, they can actually move into the business side of the project team, right? Because just like the business analyst, they may be able to proceed with lesser experience and they can gradually shift over to the business side. And I was looking back at my friends and colleagues. I've seen people with lesser experience, typically 2 years, 3 years. Some of them move into further studies. Some of them decide to go to MBA. Some of them decide to do other post-graduation. This gives you a nice segue also, because you've understood the business very well, because you're working with the business side as a low-code, no-code expert with lesser experience. So this brings me to the last slide. I'm happy to take any question and answers. And with the permission of the authors, I'll talk about the plug I had. So as I mentioned, I'm pursuing my executive PhD with IIM Raipur. And as a part of that, I'm focusing on data privacy and privacy literacy, etc. So I'm conducting an online survey. So I put this scanner at the front desk. If anyone is willing to contribute in the survey, please do scan and you can do it. It takes around 5-10 minutes of your time. That's my plugin with the approval from the organizers. I'm happy to take any questions and answers.
Any questions? Yep, few hands going up.
Excuse me. This Pega system is one of the a good case of low code, no code, or there are better ones, or how close to is it to the low code?
I cannot give you an unbiased answer because I have worked with that tool since 2004, right? Not in the product company, but I was working with Indian IT service providers. So that's where I have worked. Predominantly, I've worked with them. There are other tools also which offer LCNC, ServiceNow, and you know how the marketing is, right? It's a buzz. So everybody says we can do LCNC. But speaking from my experience, there are things which we could do without going to the developers in Pega. And so I was very happy, but again, that my answer is biased because that's the only one I've done.
But you cannot say that which is better. I mean, there are better stuff in the market than that, Pega.
It's possible, but I'm not in the position to say yes or no, because then it'll be biased.
Next question.
So you presented a case study. So I am curious to know, what was the user base? What was the concurrent users? Was there a database? How complex it was? Some details on that case study.
It was not a giant big application, right? It was an extension of an enterprise-wide application, which is also built on Pega. So that application it's globally used, 100 plus, 200 plus users globally. The main application, or I call it mother application. The extension which we did was LCNC, and I think we may have 50, 60 users again spread across globally. So that's the user base. I'm just basing it roughly. So it's not a giant application because it was a risk mitigation kind of thing also, because we wanted to try LCNC and there's a risk of failure, but then you fail at a smaller part. So that's why we said, okay, let's try this with a smaller, small to medium size application. Yes, we did this in PRPC, Pega Rules Process Commander. That's the name of the tool, version 8.x or something. And the company itself is Pega Systems. But I'm not from Pega Systems. That's the tool we are using in the project.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so complex data manipulation is something which we could not do in low code, no code. Now, to be very honest, if you see it's upcoming in the website, we can do it in the next release. That's regular marketing, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But we couldn't do it in low code, no code. We had to go back to our developer, and I think I did mention this briefly as well. I'm just looking at the reference. So yes, complex data manipulation, integration, that is something which we tried to see if the tool has a feature. It did not, so we had to go back to our developers. Yeah, whatever you call an integration, API, service call, DB call, all those things. We said, okay, it's not something for me or the PO to do. Let's ask the developer to do. It could be done in a simplified way. I'm sure the tool would have some way to do it, but we felt better going to the developer to do it.
Next question, lady.
Hi.
Please.
Yeah. Hi, Srikant. My question is more about the process, right, where you have mentioned learning. So that second statement clicks, identify the common mistakes by BA and PO. So just want you to highlight, something that you could have avoided to improve the overall process.
So what we learned is the UI part, right? Just by natural instinct, we were trying to beautify it, make it very perfect, everything aligned, every line box is aligned. Then that's not really that was more than what was required. It's functional working which was required, because we were doing it in a shorter time frame and it was not a user interface or user experience expert who was doing this. So that was something which we learned, that let's not aim for beautification of user interface, let's work for functionality. And one thing I realized is we were giving a demo, and they made a small request that, in the screen, we want not ABC, we want XYZ. That was the feedback they gave in the demo, right? And I was giving the demo as a business analyst. And while the demo was going on, my product owner was able to log into the low code, no code, change ABC to XYZ. And then he said, we've done it. And we demoed it in live, right? So when you do like this, the confidence level of the end users increase, that, okay, changes we request will be done faster. It's not snap of fingers, but it will be done faster than the regular IT cycle. So that is one thing we realized. They really liked the fact that we could do the change on the fly.
Sure. Any other questions? One more here. I'll take my mic.
Yeah, so my question is on this high experience, low experience. So what's your advice to like freshers? Should they pursue career in LCNC or should they go to a full stack, which is more difficult and hard way of learning? What's your advice?
I'm not a developer, but still with the gray hair I have, I can still give the suggestion, right? So you need to identify what is your calling. If you feel that, no, I need to work for 2-3 years, get experience, and then eventually go into any other MBA or any kind of thing, this is still a good idea to do, because you are not honing your technology skills that much, right? At the end of the day, you may not be an expert Java developer, but you may be an expert tool specialist. That will give you a benefit of having worked with the business aspect more. So if that's the direction you want to take your career, this will be good. But if you want to become, after some years, I want to become lead and then architect eventually, entry point at LCNC will not teach you so much in the early few years. That's my answer.
One last question from the back, and then we'll move to the next.
I have one.
Please go ahead.
There's one more. So we have done a small part of it, an extension part of the mother application. So once you have done with it, so how much confident are you to going ahead and do it on a new application or a mother application which have a larger one? So after doing this, how much confident are you in that part?
I have confidence. Whether I have the budget, the company has the budget to do. Definitely more confident than we did it when we were thinking in December 21 or January 22, when we were trying to do. I, in my own mind, was thinking, what will happen if I fail? And then I said, who's asking me to do this? It's the management is asking me to do it, right? I'll do it. If I fail, who asked me to do it? So that is my mindset in January, and I convinced myself mentally that, let's do it. But now, I don't think it will be such a big catastrophe, right? We can still do it. I have more confidence now than when I started the project. We can do it for sure.
Thank you.
Okay,
thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Srikant. Thank you for taking your time out. Shivali would present you the memento from us.